Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another Pure Art 360 interview. Today we're with Caroline Fraser, who is a wonderful multidisciplinary artist, we were talking earlier, but predominantly photography and book art. I'm really excited to speak to you today. If anyone has any questions throughout the talk, please pop in the Ask the Question box down the bottom and we'll ask them at the end to Caroline. First of all, we're going to very quickly show you your page in the magazine, show them your page in the magazine. And if you want to see the magazine, there's a button down here saying read the ART360 magazine, or it will be on our website. So Leslie's just going to pop that up for us. There we are. No, it's number 50, isn't it? If anyone wants to find it. There we are. So you can see some of the beautiful photography there. And all your contact details there as well.
Thank you.
Brilliant, fantastic. So I think we'll start off, Caroline, by just asking you a bit about your artist story, how you came to be where you are now. Not literally, because I understand you're speaking to us from Canada.
I am, yes.
Could you tell us a bit about that, why you're in Canada?
Yes, I can. I have two children and they both live in Vancouver. My daughter is now a Canadian citizen. My grandson is here. And my son is working towards becoming a Canadian citizen, mainly because they both love outdoor life and mountains, and they've got a fantastic lifestyle here. So I come over here as much as I can, and obviously because of lockdown, I've not been able to see them for quite a long time. So I'm currently enduring 14 days in an Airbnb all by myself in quarantine in order to be allowed to see them, which I'm looking forward to very much.
Oh, so that love of nature runs in the family, because I mean, you were saying to us earlier in the green room how it is hard for you being stuck inside just because you do love nature so much.
Yeah, we all love being in the forest and the mountains, and I think we're mountain people. And I think if I had my life over again, I would be living in the mountains, but I enjoy them when I come here.
Fantastic. So tell us a bit about your artist story and what you've done, and how you've got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's well, it's one of those funny things that life takes a turn that you're not expecting, and that was what started my creative journey. I actually was, until very recently, a GP and worked in Southeast London, and then in 2004, which is now near 16 years ago, I got breast cancer and had to have 6 months off work and had quite a lot of surgery and chemotherapy and sort of go through the treatment that you have to have. And for me, that was an incredible wake-up call. I had, some years prior to that, been hiking on the West Highland Way in Loch Lomond, and we'd passed a photography centre where you can go and do workshops just set up on the hillside looking over Loch Lomond. And I was with my brother and my son at the time, and I said to them, oh, I'm going to go there one day. And you know how you're busy in your life and these things, you put them off. And then it was the very first thing that I did when I'd finished my chemotherapy was to go on a course called Art in Nature at Inversnaid Photography Centre. And I took my son with me. We were there for a week and we were doing photography in a sort of artistic way and looking at abstract landscapes and spending some time in the darkroom and just taking pictures of things like leaves and water. And I realized that this was something that I needed to carry on with. And so having been just a sort of hobby photographer, I suddenly became completely obsessed with photography and realized that I had, I thought I was going to die. So I thought I just need to make the most of the time that I have and do the things that I want to do. And that sort of gave me the freedom to just be more myself and do what mattered to me rather than just caring for my family and going to work. So it was the biggest kick up the backside I've had in my life, and I think it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me in that respect, because I'm now living the life that is so much more fulfilling. So when I came back from Scotland, I joined a photography club locally, learned a fantastic amount from them in Beckenham, and then just tried to learn from people that I knew, went on courses, went on landscape workshops, and just gradually developed my own personal way of making photographs and images. And it's nearly always of nature, water, trees, mountains, places that I love. So that's how I started, and it's just been a journey since then, really.
That's a hugely inspiring story. I think there's a lot to be learnt from what you've just said, through, like you say, finding the thing you're passionate for and having the fulfillment that art can bring so many people. So you were automatically drawn to photography, and you'd obviously had this idea in your mind even before.
I've always enjoyed it. I'd always had a camera, and as a teenager, I spent a bit of time in the darkroom, and just had, a traditional film SLR camera. But then I moved towards digital once I started, because I don't actually like being indoors in a darkroom. I like to be outside in the light, and for me, to be outside. My studio I consider to be the outdoors, really. It's not something I do indoors. It's I go out, I walk, and I make pictures just as I'm walking, and that's the most relaxing way that I can spend my time, just being quiet in nature with my camera.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm definitely getting this, nature centric vibe. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And we were talking again before about you started an MA in book art, and we were talking as well about you doing book art as well, and ink drawings, as well. I said multidisciplinary. Can you tell us a bit about your journey doing that MA course?
Yeah, I mean, I had done it because I've never done a BA in arts, and so I did a postgraduate certificate in education at Central St Martin's in 2011, and that was a year of very intensive photography, and I was still working full, 3/4 time at the time, so that was a really, really fun year. And one of the things that I did when I was there was to make a book about my local woods that I walk in, and where I have walked every day in lockdown. And that's kind of got me started on a journey of wanting to make books as a way of expressing myself, because I like to write words about places and things that are important to me. And just to look at a single image doesn't feel to me to have so much meaning as a story that you can tell in a book. So in about 2016, I finally got around to doing an MA, and I got accepted on the course at Camberwell for book arts, which was something that I got really into by that stage. And traveling into Camberwell, it was a very sort of conceptual course, and I found that it wasn't really working for me. You're meant to come up with a project and have an idea about and do some research about that, but it was kind of the antithesis of the way that I work, which is to be outside and just to sort of feel inspired by what I'm seeing while I'm walking, and being calm outside. And going on trains into central London to do the course was having the opposite effect on me, and it made me realize that having an MA wasn't really what mattered. What matters is that I can be an artist and do it the way that I need to do it, which is to be outside. And I quit after the first year, and that was an incredibly hard decision to make, because I'd been wanting to do an MA for years, and it was a real dilemma for me whether to carry on for another year. But I was actually hating it. So at the end of the first year, I made a book called Blood, Sweat and Tears, which kind of really sums it up. And the tutors loved it, and I just thought, if they love that, and that's so far removed from my normal self that it's just not working. So I decided to leave the course, and having left the course, I felt an incredible feeling of lightness, and that's when I made a series of work about water on my local stream called Unbearable Lightness. So that was, I went back to just doing what I do and learning in different ways. There are many different ways that you can learn. You don't have to do an MA.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very, very fair to say it's probably the harder decision to make. I think it'd be very easy for you to have stuck, just stayed on the course and be sort of dragged along with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a very honest and brave decision to make. And your work's probably better because of it.
I don't know. I think, there's a lot of things that I've learned about making books and ways of thinking about ways of making books. And I have a more conceptual approach to making books now. So that's not been a waste of time. But I think I need to spend my time doing what gives me pleasure, not something that's making me feel stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned your Unbearable Likeness series, and I think Leslie's going to pop some of your website on screen.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go through a few of your artworks for us, aren't you? Brilliant, thank you.
So these are taken with my Olympus OMD camera, which has the facility to make long exposures, but you can actually watch them developing digitally on the screen as you take the picture. So I put a very dark filter on my lens so that I'm basically blocking out everything apart from the sunlight, which is on the water. And I just watch it tracing patterns over the surface of the water. And I can spend hours looking at water and just watching sun moving. It's become a bit of an obsession while I'm here in Canada. I'm hoping that we'll be going to some lakes and I can do some videos of water. And I did an artist residency in Trelay in 2017 in Switzerland, and I made a lot of images of water there, just from local fountains. So I continued that series.
Tell us a bit about your residency. So how did that come about? Was that you applied for that?
That was a residency in 2017 in Trelay with an artist called Nina Rodin, who I have tremendous respect for. She came to the Creative Centre in Rye and gave a talk and a symposium. And I found out that she runs a residency where you don't have to say what you want to do when you get there, which for me was just the best thing I could imagine. I'd never had the courage to apply for a residency. I didn't feel that I had enough experience. I wasn't, I'm not really sort of, I haven't got all the degrees that some artists have and all of that. But I applied to go, and she accepted me, and that was just absolutely magical. 4 weeks that I had staying in the top story of her house in a little tiny village in the sort of mountains of Switzerland. It was absolutely idyllic. And I spent the time just wandering around, looking at all the fountains and walking beside the lake and making images and then making a book. And the book was called If I Only Had More Time. And it was basically some words about how you will always run out of time, whatever you're doing. And it showed it showed the village and what I'd spent my time doing, but then it was about how I was going to go back and do some more if I had more time. And Nina very kindly invited me to go back a year later, and we actually worked on making a book together. And where I just made a little book, sort of online blurb book, she had a vision that we were going to make a hardback and a softback book. So we worked together for a week. I have never worked so hard in my life. We made, I think, 30 softback books and 12 hardback books in the space of a week. And it was just an extraordinary and wonderful time because we were working together. And I haven't got the book here with me because I've not brought too much stuff with me because of my luggage allowance. I'd love to be able to show it to you, but it is on my website, and it's a concertina book, and I'm very proud of it. And we actually made it with the intention to sell it to make money for breast cancer charity.
Oh, how wonderful!
Yeah. So that was. I think sometimes you don't have the courage as an artist to apply for things, and I would just say to people, just do it, just try, because you never know. I was so amazed when Nina accepted me, and it has been a most wonderful friendship that we've developed. And we very much enjoy spending time together, and I'm very, very grateful to her. And it was just such a beautiful place.
Collaboration is king, isn't it, in the art world? It's something that will give you the confidence to. And that the book looks stunning. Everyone can see it on the screen.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a little. We went on. We had to drive 2 hours to get materials from a place to get the cover. The cloth for the cover is orange, and one of the reasons for that, I mean, I say that it's because the geraniums in the village were orange when I was there, and that is true. But one of the other reasons is my sort of rebellious streak, because when I was doing my MA, I put some orange on something for a book, and the tutors removed it because they didn't think it was right to have a bright color on my book. And ever since then, I've been determined that everything I make should have a little bit of bright color in it, because that's me. And I wasn't being allowed to be true to myself. So
well, you proved them wrong.
I now rebel. So my book, Land of My Father, has orange thread on it as well. So there's orange is quite important to me.
Oh, good for you. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to show us on your website before we talk about any other works?
I'd like to show you Findings, which is from New Zealand. One of the things I did when I was still working as a GP, and I went to New Zealand for a holiday in 2011. And when I came back, I said to my husband, when the dog dies, I'm going to go and work in New Zealand, because it was so beautiful. And South Island for me is just a magical place. And strangely, the dog died much younger than we expected. And so suddenly I was free to go, and I did. I arranged to go and do a locum in South Island for 3 months in their summer, which was our winter, which is fabulous. I stayed in this amazing little town in the middle of sheep farming country, and it was not far from the mountains and beaches. And I've been out there to work 3 times for 3 months at a time, because I just loved it. And on my last trip to Oamaru, I made this series, which my son calls my dead seaweed series. It's called Findings, and it's just literally bits of fragments of seaweed on the beach at Oamaru. And I've also made it into a book which has a little bit of an environmental message at the end, because I'm absolutely obsessed with how litter is sort of just becoming a problem on our beaches and our landscape. And in the book, it just has a message about plastic. But anyone who knows me knows that I go around picking up litter a lot. So
I do the same. I go on one walk and it takes so much longer, doesn't it? Because you're picking
when I'm down at Canvas Sands, which I spend quite a lot of my time there, I can't go to the beach now without a plastic bag to put litter in, because I will always come back with at least 15 plastic bottles. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, your pockets end up full, don't they? And it's very disheartening.
Yeah, it is. But I just feel now that the only way not to be angry about it is to actually do something about it and just go around picking it up. So that makes me feel that I'm doing something useful.
Absolutely. Is there any other bodies of work you want to show us on your website?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Rain Dance, which is my lockdown series, which basically was from my local woods. I walk there. It's a place called Hawkwood, and I walk there very, very often. When I was having my chemotherapy, I walked there every day with the dog. And I made a book called Hawkwood with a poem about it, which is I made into a book. And then during lockdown, I was there, but it was full of people and it was crowded and it was difficult to walk without bumping into people, and everybody was having to stand aside to let each other pass, and it didn't feel like my woods that I normally go to for a bit of peace and quiet. And then it rained. It was just fresh and quiet, and the pond where I spent a lot of time looking at the water and the reflections was just covered in raindrops, and I just took some images. And what I do with them is I take them into Photoshop and I work with layers, and I sometimes add color, and in some of these I've actually added paintings that I was doing as part of my lockdown art classes that I did with Nick Archer at Rye. So we had a Zoom art class during lockdown, which was just fantastic, just helped me get through lockdown because it gave me a purpose and something to look forward to. So I was doing some painting, which I don't normally do, and I actually blended them with some of the photographs in as a digital thing. So that was a new venture for me, was to sort of work in layers with in a different way, because I quite often do multiple exposure photography in a variety of different ways, sometimes just superimposing one image on top of another one quite obviously, and sometimes using in-camera multiple exposure, which I have on both of my sort of main cameras. So these will be, I take an image, then I add some color to it, and then I will add another layer of the same image, which I'll move around and expand, make it larger, so that it sort of mixes it up, and it just becomes something a little bit different from what I actually see, which is a murky, dark pond with a lot of leaves in it, which, but for me, it just represents the light and the sort of peace that I find when I'm out in those woods. And I'm very lucky to live somewhere where I can just get there just by walking. When we were stuck indoors, that was great.
I have to say, I absolutely love this series. There's something so fresh about them.
Thank you.
And like you say, peaceful. They're absolutely beautiful. So through your journey as being an artist, have there been any significant people who have helped you, well, you and your growth and your journey?
Yeah, there have. Nina is one of them. Nina Rodan, who I talked about with the with my residency. Mm-hmm. Another one is there's a lady called Liesl Strauss and her friend Kitty Dinshaw. Liesl and her husband John started a company called Subject Matter Art, and they approached me after I did my postgraduate certificate in education and asked me if I would be willing to use some of my images from the Hebrides for their online photographic company called Subject Matter. And I'm still with Subject Matter, and just they have been incredibly supportive to me, and to go from being just someone who's interested in photography to someone approaching you and saying, would you be one of our photographers, was such an incredible boost to my confidence when I was doing my postgraduate certificate. And it's funny how these things, they matter so much at the time. It's like you're constantly trying to improve, and you want to sort of move your work to another level. And there are little sort of, you can just sort of think about the times in your life when you've just taken a step up. And that was definitely one of those times. And the other person who really helped me was a guy called Eddie Aframes, who works for himself as a company called Envisage Books. And he helped me to realize the very first book that I made as an artist book, which is called Land of My Father. Mm-hmm. That is a book that I made to go with some words that I wrote about the death of my father when I was 8. And it's combined with images from the Highlands of Scotland, where he came from. And that was an incredibly important book for me because it helped me to resolve a grief that had been sort of an underlying current to my life from the age of 8, because his death was really not talked about very much, and it was one of those things. The family, for some reason, found it easier not to talk about it, and that was just meant that it was unresolved. So I made a book, and I've actually got it here. So it's
oh wow,
it's the one with the orange thread on it. So and actually the orange thread in this is a reference to the orange curtains that were in the room when my mother told me that he died. And in fact, that's a false memory, because my brother points out that those weren't the curtains that were there at the time, but that's how I remember it. But these were images taken from the Highlands of Scotland on an incredibly miserable rainy trip that I had one October. And they were so miserable, these images, that I just put them away for a while. But then I found myself writing some words that go with it. And they just seemed the right images to go with the words, because it was it was a tribute to my father. So that was my first artist book. And I've lost my thread. Where are we going? Oh yeah, we're talking about people who've helped me. So Eddie helped me to make that book, because I had no idea how you make a book in there's a program called Adobe InDesign, which you can actually create books in, and I was not au fait with that at the time. I've since learned how to use it and can now do it myself, and have been able to. And so the book Findings is another one that I've made with the images of the seaweed that we talked about. So I'm getting better at doing that myself.
That's such a powerful piece, the one for your father. That's incredible, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
So we've had a look at your website, and we were going to do a look around your studio, obviously, but I can't do that right now. But what's the best way for people to contact you after this interview and to purchase your work? I know you've got a piece in Rye Art Gallery at the moment.
I do. I have also work in Art Spring Gallery in Tunbridge, and that's a cooperative of artists who basically we all work and run the gallery together. So that's been another experience for me, and being involved with them has helped me to improve the way I present my work. So that's another thing that I'm grateful for. I have also have worked with subject matter, but the best way to contact me is just to contact me directly through my website or through Instagram. And I'm at Rye Creative Centre, but yeah, just send me a message if you want to talk about any of my work. I'll be very pleased to hear from people.
The interviews, I think, make it so much easier for people to contact you, because you're no longer, a scary artist.
Yeah, I don't like to think of myself as a scary person.
I think people are so intimidated on websites and Instagram, but the minute they see you talking, they're like, oh yeah, I can talk to her.
Yeah, just a normal person, yeah.
And we've got some questions here for you as well.
Okay.
So first one is, your photography is clearly very important and enjoyable for you. How important to you is exhibiting it and showing it to others and getting their reactions?
That's a really interesting question, which I talk to myself about all the time. I had a solo show in Rye Art Gallery last summer, and that was the most uplifting experience for me. It was kind of like just showing the journey that I'd been on. It was very emotional for me, because it has been an emotional journey, and to see my work filling the whole of one room of Rye Art Gallery in the light, sort of bright white gallery space, in the best way that I could present it, it gave me such a feeling of pride, and in a way it's a sort of recognition of what you've achieved. So it is important. But the other half of me says, well, actually, I don't really want to play this game, and I'd rather just sit at home and make books. And don't often, my books don't make me any money. They take hours and hours and hours to make, but that's what gives me the most pleasure. So it's a real dilemma, and I do struggle with that very, very frequently. I do like selling my work because I like to think that people can enjoy it, but it's not just about that. It's about actually you've got to go with whatever your current passion is. And at the moment I'm enjoying experimenting, making videos, just because it's a new thing and I love to learn new skills. So I don't think they're going to go anywhere or be particularly useful apart from just as a way of showing my work. But that's a fun thing that I'm trying at the moment. So yeah, good question.
Fantastic. And
not sure if I've answered it.
Well, it's a conflict, isn't it? Like you say, there's like two sides of it.
Yeah, it is a real conflict.
Next question was, I love the digital pieces incorporating photography and the painting. Where do you access your interior settings from? They really give a wonderful insight for buyers as to how they will look in a home setting.
Yeah, there are lots of websites where you can upload your work into what they call rooms. Now, what's the name of the one? Oh gosh, my mind's gone blank now. So, if you
remember, we can pop it in the thing afterwards.
Think about that one. Yeah, there are free websites and there are paid websites. The one that I use is a paid website, but something like it's not called Art Rooms. You'll have to come back to me on that one.
It'll suddenly come to you in the middle of the night and you'll be like, oh. Did you have a camera as a child or a young adult?
I did. My very first photograph was taken with a box Brownie when I was about 7. I still have that photograph.
Amazing.
And I had a Fujica SLR when I was a teenager, which I loved. And now my son actually has it now. So I've always had cameras. Yeah, lots of cameras. Too many cameras, probably. More than I need.
The passion's always been there then, that interest.
Yeah, I'm actually downsizing on cameras. Now I mostly walk around with this one, which is just an Olympus. I had a much bigger one and I do use it for big trips, but this one is light enough to walk without it sort of being a burden. So it's with me on my walks and I love it. It's my favorite.
And the last question here says, you said how fulfilling it is to be a full-time artist. Was it also fulfilling in a different way to be a GP? Oh
gosh, yes. Very. I loved my job. I've only recently given it up. I was working part-time up until just before lockdown. And having decided that I'm not going to work anymore, I feel quite strange because I do miss the balance that I had when I was a bit of this and a bit of that. Now that I'm just an artist, it doesn't feel that I'm a particularly useful person. I've been very used to being quite busy and quite, I suppose the word people just say is people, you like to be needed, and I don't feel I'm so needed now that I'm not working as a doctor, and that's something I just got to get to grips with, really, and find different ways of being useful.
I think lockdown has proved to us that the artists are incredibly needed. Incredibly.
I was going to say,
for all of our mental health and well-being. I think you're as needed now as you ever were. It's just needed in a different way.
Yeah, I think I do acknowledge that. It just feels different, and yeah,
because we are all different, aren't we?
Yeah,
and we're all bringing something different to this party. Thank you both so much. That has been absolutely incredible to listen to. Caroline, your story is emotional, and that comes through so strongly in your work, especially the books. And it's got so much meaning. and that is really important, and you're sharing that, and the fact that you're sharing it with everyone is important. So yeah, what you're doing is so important, and thank you for coming to us from Vancouver.
Thank you for having me from Vancouver.
You've made us international.
I know. I hope I'm very glad that the Wi-Fi here is up to the job.
Yes, it's held out well. We did have a little bit of a moment with Wi-Fi, as you two know, but no, I don't know if anyone else was reading the chat. You may have noticed. We were having a few issues with getting Hildegard. We got her on screen, but we couldn't get her on audio. But actually, I have been receiving missives from another way to tell me that she is now on audio. So that's great. So I will be able to now move over and start chatting to Hildegard, which is brilliant, because I know she was very keen to come on today.
Oh, that's great.
You know, it's the energy thing, isn't it? She loves your energy, and obviously you both exhibit together, and your friends, and I think it's lovely to have you, two of you, on the screen together. Thank you, Mollie. You did a brilliant job.
Yeah, thank you, Mollie.
You're
Thank you
in
for speaking
you're in
to
safe
us.
hands with Mollie.
Oh,
So I'm going to pop you two down in the side, and I'm going to see if I can get Hildegard up on the screen. Let's hope that I haven't jinxed it by saying we're all wonderful now.
That's great.
And then you'll be able to say hello to Hildegard, Caroline.
Yep.
And then I will. I'm just going to bring Hildegard's. I'm just going to get Hildegard's website. There we go. Because there she is.
hi, Hildegard.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Hildegard?
Yes, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
Goodness for that.
This is a new one for us. Look, we've got 4 of us on the screen. You can go up to 6, but we haven't ventured down that road. And now we've got 4 of us. It's absolutely gorgeous. Look at that screen. So exciting. And Hildegard, you're in Hadlow, so just outside Tunbridge, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got, obviously, Caroline all the way over in Vancouver, still in quarantine, trapped in her Airbnb, and then Mollie in Flimwell and me in near Hastings. So, yeah, look at that. We're traversing the globe. So how did you find, Hildegard, how did you find Caroline's, did you find out anything new that you didn't already know, listening to Caroline speaking?
Yes, it was wonderful to hear about all the art books, because that's a side that I don't know that much about, and to see how important that is for you, Caroline, and also, the whole process of persevering, working really, really hard, and getting all that enjoyment and pleasure, and moving forward and making it your personal expression. That's great to see. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's the resilience and the fortitude to stick with it. And I think we could say the same to you, Hildegard, after that slight sound aberration earlier. Just stick with it. It was all good. It all came good in the end. So I'm going to pop Mollie and Caroline down in the side, and then we're going to have a little chat I'm going to focus. I'm not trying to focus the screen on you, Caroline. Don't panic. So I'm going to just turn your video off, and I'm going to do the same for Mollie. There we are. So they're still with us, Hildegard. They're just down there sitting in the corner. And I'm just going to turn their microphones off just so we can limit the amount of background noise while we're chatting. So thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, look at that gorgeousness behind you. All that gorgeous colour and glass and everything.
This is actually not in my studio. I'm in the house where my studio is, but there's no Wi-Fi reception. So I've created this little corner in our lounge. And I've had to close all the blinds to bring a little bit of light onto the glass artwork, because that was a bit of a challenge. But yes, it's and I've assembled a range of work from different stages of working in glass. But over to you, Leslie.
Brilliant. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to have a quick look at your page in the Pure magazine, so everyone can see where to contact you. So I'm just going to bring your page up here. We always look at that. That's going so well. That was your idea, wasn't it? This walls on the website and everyone posting on the wall. That was your idea, wasn't it? I'm just trying to find, why is that not sharing? ART360 magazine, share. I'm going to share. Right, here we go. There we go. So this here was your idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm glad that it's worked out, and it just gives an up-to-date sort of snapshot of the event.
Absolutely, it keeps everything alive. So, and then we come down to the magazine, and we should all know now, shouldn't we? And I will say, Hildegard, you're last.
Okay, I'll own up to that.
You were the last one to submit everything. So this is your website, and this is your page, and this is how people can contact you. So you've got your email, you've got your website, and then you're on Facebook and you're on Instagram. So yeah, beautiful. And I can see, I think that's the piece that's on the wall, isn't it, behind you?
Yeah.
That's in the book, isn't it? So that's how you can contact Hildegard as we gradually talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over the screen to you. I'm going to sit down in the corner with the girls, and then I'll chat to you from down there so that everyone gets the full view of your studio, because that's much better than them looking at me. No one wants to look at me. They want to look at all of your gorgeous work. So yeah, can you tell us where it all started? I'm fascinated why you decided glass was your medium. Was it glass from day one, or?
Well, actually, when I was growing up, my younger sister was always considered to have a talent for art, and she was very good at drawing, and I never really considered myself to be as good as her. And but I quite enjoyed art at school, and then leaving school, I decided I didn't want to go to university straight away, so I wanted to do something practical. I ended up working in joinery for a while. Then that led me to choosing interior design as a career, and I studied that in Germany. Once I'd graduated, I worked in that profession for 20 years in London, and those were exciting years. Quite a high-pressure job, but because of my connections originally coming from Germany, I ended up working on projects in Germany, did a lot of traveling, and was able to sort of stay in touch with the homeland, really. What then happened is that I love color, I love light, and started to take up a training as a color therapist back in the 90s. And that was very interesting, working with immersing oneself in a color lit environment. And then the step from there to working with glass, and the way glass throws these beautiful colors into a space. If you're in a church or in a building that has big architectural glass panels, you would have experienced that. And that really was quite arresting. And to seeing that sort of almost otherworldly quality coming through. And I think that's when I got hooked and started doing evening classes. And once I touched the material and made one panel in a Saturday workshop, it was just so uplifting to create something yourself, because as an interior designer, you make drawings, you do designs, other people create the work. But this was sort of hands-on, and that really inspired me. And going on from there, I was thinking, one day I might do a summer course at Central St. Martin's, and then forgot about that idea, and ended up going to City Lit stained glass courses there with the wonderful Cathy Shaw. And she'd been doing a master's degree at Central St. Martin's. She said, I think you should apply for a postgraduate course there. I said, okay, I'll try. Got in, did a year on glass and architecture, loved it to bits. I was working part-time, so I was working 3 days a week in the interior design practice, having persuaded my boss to let me do this, which he reluctantly did. After a year, he gave me a choice. He said, you either come back to the office full-time or you've got to find a job elsewhere. So I went back full-time, which wasn't an easy choice because there was another year left on the course. Stop me if I'm going into too much detail.
No, keep going. You just keep going. It's brilliant.
And so I thought, okay, you've had a brilliant year. You loved it. You know, it gave you a real buzz. I made some work. I left with distinction. I kept in touch with college. And then in one of the design projects I did in my then again full-time job, the architect said, oh, we'd like to have a screen feature here in this restaurant. And I was speaking to my colleagues and I said, I'll make some samples. So I made some glass samples, took them to Germany, showed them to the architect. He said, oh, how about this and this? Made another sample. They said, okay, let's go for it. You design a big panel here. And
Wow.
I worked with a glass studio in Germany to get the work made. And what it taught me was that you might think that you let go of something in your life, and actually you don't know when it will come back to you.
No.
Or in which way it will come back to you. And that has given me, sorry, I'm going all emotional now.
Oh, it's okay. I can feel it.
That has given me a lot of confidence in life, because sometimes we have to make difficult choices. And you think, oh, one door closes, another door opens. But sometimes you just enter the room through a different door, you know. And then I did another project. Again, as the interior designer, I managed to propose and get accepted a big room divider for the Sheraton Hotel in Frankfurt. And again, worked with the same glass studio to get it executed. And then a design for a restaurant screen that I worked with a Brixton-based company, Nero Designs, to get that implemented. So suddenly going from, you know, saying goodbye to glass to having big projects in Germany, which was also exciting because I'd never worked in Germany. I only grew up and studied there. Then 2001, 9/11 happened, and I think the work sort of shifted its focus more back onto the UK. And I then went back to my boss and said, actually, with, you know, the world being such an uncertain place now, would you consider me going back part-time? And I thought you might say, you know where the door is. And but he didn't. He said, yes, I agreed to you going, working 4 days a week, 1 day off. Because there was all this anxiety about layoffs and companies closing. And so then I went back to Central St. Martin's and said, can I do my second year? And Caroline Swash, who was the brilliant head of glass, said, actually, I don't think you should be a student. I think you should be artist in access, which was wonderful. So I was working 1 day a week, developing my own body of work as an artist in access there. At the end of the year, I had a show at the college. And some of that work is actually behind me here. So let me just move this. So this is part of a panel of 4 pieces that I work with. And I'll come on to what I do with the glass a bit later. Then in 2000, and then she invited me to become part of the teaching team on the course. Because of my architectural background, they wanted someone to give more input on the glass and architecture course. So I went from thinking one day I'll do a summer course at Central St. Martin's to being on the teaching team.
What was your boss saying about all of this? Because, you know, he's like made you come back and then allowed you to go 1 day, and all of a sudden you're on the teaching team.
Well, that actually, I skipped out one sort of small detail there, that in 2005 I had my son and quit the interior design world at that point. And then the teaching came after that, really. So that was a big life change. And then I focused on, obviously, raising a family and my class. And then the teaching. The course then was closed down in 2011 when the college restructured, which was a great loss to the glass community, because there's less and less courses, especially at a sort of more advanced level, that are accessible to people and that are part-time. You know, if you're working and have to support yourself, those choices are just becoming more and more limited. But anyway,
you wrote a book, didn't you? Then?
Yes, I just happened to have that. Yeah. So Caroline Swash, Helen Maurer, who was the other wonderful tutor on the course, and myself, we worked on putting a book together featuring students of the last 25 years of the course. So each student had a page. It's a real retrospective of what was achieved at that college with that course. And we had a show and everything. So there was another chapter that closed in 2011. But by then I'd started exhibiting 2D artwork in open submissions and local exhibitions, and was lucky enough to get some work into the summer exhibition at the Royal Academy. So slowly my artwork side then took off and took over. And that's really where I am now.
A few people have said about the fact that getting work through an open submission, especially to the Royal Academy, has been a bit of a game changer, that's actually opens up a few more opportunities. Did you find that yourself?
I found that there was a great level of interest, and all the work I had there sold, and people contacting me saying, did I have similar work? It really generated sales. I had one inquiry for commission, but that didn't happen. So it was really good for sales, but I had no gallery inquiries and no commissions from it. But that did not matter. It made me move forward in my work. It just, yeah. And as all the open submission exhibitions, that I would say that was the most successful for me every time I got into that show. Now that it's all gone digital, my chances of getting work accepted, I feel, have been reduced, because glass just doesn't come across in a photograph as well as when it's seen. It's just such a difficult medium to photograph, with reflections and the changing qualities of light and color. So yeah, the digital submission process hasn't favored my work, shall we say.
However, I think you're now at a particular stage where you've got a gallery, haven't you? You've got quite a good gallery that represents you a lot and sells your work all over the world, Cube Gallery.
Yes, that was another big step forward for me. That I was invited by by September Art to take part in their anniversary exhibition. I think it was in 2017. And I said yes, and everybody was given 2 screens, and as it so happened, there was some spare space, and I ended up with quite a large display area. And I stood back and thought, hang on a minute, I'm actually able to fill this space, you know, whereas before my work was quite small, and you think, oh yeah, I can't really go to any art fair, I haven't got enough volume of work, and seeing my work at September Art, it really gave me the confidence to go that next step up and apply for the other art fair, and which was a brilliant experience, really challenging in terms of getting my act together and getting the work there. But
yes, because the other art fair is self-represented, isn't it? So you don't get taken by a gallery. So the affordable art fair and other art fairs, you get taken by the gallery. But with the other art fair, for those who don't know, and many will, but some who are watching won't know, the other art fair is a self-represented fair. So you have to organise it yourself, you have to hang it yourself, you have to price it yourself, and you have to sell it to the public yourself.
So I had quite a few inquiries from galleries there and art consultants, but the one that stood out was Cube Gallery, and I really was very happy when they then invited me back to show them some work, and eventually accepted me onto their panel of artists. And the first show they took me to was the Affordable Art Fair in New York, where my work sold out, which was just amazing, unbelievable.
Didn't it sell almost before it came out of the container?
Well, it sold at the private view night.
Yeah.
Which was just, I remember thinking, this isn't happening, this is someone else as well. But
you underestimate how amazing your work is, I think, sometimes.
And well, and I've been with them ever since. Obviously now the situation is slightly different. All the big art fairs are cancelled. In fact, some of my work had been already shipped out to New York for the Affordable Art Fair in March, which was then cancelled. And a lot of my work is now sitting in a container in New York Harbor.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And 2 of those pieces had been pre-sold by the gallery, and one of them, the collector, wanted to have it earlier. But yeah, my work is
So will
some
they
of my
get
work
that
is
then?
sitting.
So if it's pre-sold, will they still be able to get that work once it's out of the container, presumably?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah. So, but obviously.
And how are Cube doing? Have you spoken to them? How's life going for Cube Gallery?
They are having sales, mostly through their extensive network. So that is good. They've sort of. I've been talking to them about potentially a 2-person show next spring in their gallery, which is in Marylebone, and that's my next big goal to achieve. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you alluded to the fact that previously your work was quite small. Have you started making bigger pieces?
Yes, the biggest piece to date I've made is 80 by 80 centimeters, and you have to bear in mind that my work is sort of. I'll just show you. Oops, is sort of this sort of scale, which is 30 by 30. Yeah. Now, because we're in a very light-filled room here, I'm not sure how well the artwork is coming across.
You can see it, and behind you, there's a lot of colour in the works behind you. So we know that as soon as the light hits that, that's what happens to it. In fact, that's perfect there. You can see.
You might see it better.
Yeah, you can see all the lights, and because this is a particular type of glass, isn't it? It's dichroic glass. Talk to us about that.
Yes, dichroic glass is it's a clear glass, borosilicate, very hard glass, that has a metal oxide coating steamed onto it in a vacuum chamber. And it's nanomillimeter thick of metal oxides. And what that does is, depending on the composition of those oxides, it breaks the light passing through the coating in different ways. Some of it is reflected, some transmitted. And in fact, it splits the spectrum to where it transmits one color, reflects its complementary. So from one piece of glass, you can get, so there's a piece here. Yeah, so that, looking on the face of it is orange. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were to see, that's hard to show, the shadow of it, let's see if I, there.
Yes, there
Can you see the blue coming?
Yes,
Yeah, so that's just one piece of glass who does that.
And do you know what's going to come each time, or is there a recipe, or is it just like randomly you get bits of glass and you see what the colors are and then you make up the piece?
I can order, I've got a sample set, I can order certain colors. What I don't know is how the colors interact, which is where for me the magic happens really. Because as you get things overlapping, the colors mix and merge and create a third color.
So it's like a painter's palette.
Yes, in fact, I've got a little stick here. I don't know how well that comes.
Oh yeah, that as you and turn it back. There you go.
Yeah, so that is some of the palette. You don't get really intense colors. They're quite soft, but if you work with artificial spotlight on it, it can become really technicolor. And also in this piece behind me, the glass, when I first started working with the material, I used it so that you could see the color looking at it front on. So you can see that's a purple, that's a blue, green, red. And what I've done here is different layers of sandblasting in front and behind. So part of the color gets reflected forward onto the sandblasting.
Yes.
And some of it gets transmitted behind. And I was playing with perspective and space. And I think that was still coming from my sort of design background.
Yes, this looks like a screen. It looks like it could be made bigger into a screen or a panel.
Yeah, in fact, someone commissioned me to make a piece like this as a infill panels for their balustrade on their staircase.
Lucky them.
That worked
beautiful, is that?
It worked really well because as the sun came through, it just throws color in that space against, in that stair space. So, wow. I was very pleased with that. That was a private commission.
How lucky are they? So you started off by doing that, and then what happened? What was because you've spoken about all these like lucky moments, like you say, when one door, is that old expression, is it? One door closes, another door opens, and we have to be, I would say, you never know what's round the corner. Just, go with it and see what's, take the ride and see what's going to bring round the corner. So how did that journey happen from doing these flat screens to these pieces now with the central bars and the other one as well over the back there, that you're kind of bending the glass almost, aren't you?
Yeah, because this is very much a three-dimensional installation and it needs to be seen in a space. You can't just hang this against the wall. It's really, this particular panel is for a window or an internal space. So I wanted to start making wall art that would work with the light coming from the side or from above. Right. And if you look at the glass straight on, it acts a bit like a mirror, and that was irritating. I thought that was too distracting. So I started putting things. So I started bonding the glass 90 degrees to the front layer of glass. And so by doing so, you hide the glass itself. All you show is the projected color. Yes. And then it becomes more mysterious. People look at it and go up very close and say, "Oh, what am I looking at here? What is the background painted? Is it, And I turn the lights off, and all the color disappears. So if I turn this around like this, the color's gone. Yeah.
And so it's all that's a plaster panel that you've molded, is it?
Yes. So first I worked with a flat background, and couple of years ago I started exploring working with other materials. So I did a course in plaster casting and really loved the surface. You get this smooth surface, you can still shape it and bend it. And with this piece you also get a nice contrast with a rough edge. So there's like a contrast between the smooth plaster surface and the high-tech glass with more of a rough edge here. So I'm exploring plaster, and I was also exploring folded paper.
Yes, because that looks a bit like folded paper, doesn't it? It looks a bit like origami. Yes, yeah.
So I started doing this, which modulates the way the shadow falls, the glass projected. So if you look at this piece, hard to see, but it plays with the shadows and shifts them, the projected color. It's tricky to show.
You can see it absolutely fine. Having it on that side works really well because the light's bouncing across.
And so the latest work I'm doing is actually more of a woven piece. So I'm using strips of paper and almost like a weave and weft.
Yes.
So some of it is the strips of paper. So here you're looking at strips of paper, and then it passes over the glass and underneath the glass.
Oh, I see.
So again, with no light on it, you get this sort of three-dimensional effect. But as I turn that up,
look at that.
You can see. And now this is a piece, a work in progress piece. So there's only a few color strips that I've inserted in there. yeah, and they can come out and shift somewhere else. But this is just a working model, and based on this, I then created the piece behind me.
That piece
so this
there.
is the final piece. I'll just take that down.
Is that piece on your website?
Yes, that is the one in the magazine as well.
Ah, it's a piece in the magazine as well. I was just thinking we could show it on your website, because
it is on the website as well.
Let me have a quick look on your website.
It's on the artwork.
Oh yeah, got it here. Color Weave series. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So.
Just seeing if I can bring it up on here. Color Weave series. Yeah. Yeah, so if I share your website, I'm sorry, I'm just I'm flipping between the two. See, when I'm doing it for Mollie, it's all right, isn't it? When I have to do it myself, and I'm just going to bring that up bigger, so just for a moment, and then people can see that on your website. There we go. There it is on there. Top left is this Color Weave series. I don't know whether I can get that any bigger.
No,
I don't think I can.
No.
Can I?
No, not on there.
No, so that's the piece you're talking about, though, is that top left, isn't it? And that's the piece you were just looking at, which is the Crevices series on the top right there.
Yes, exactly. That is a bigger version in that series, the one top right. And but this one, so looking at that, you actually get a good range of the different styles that I've sort of been working on, and how the color can be more intense with the right light as well.
Yes, because it can be very, very intense or quite subtle, can't it? Depending on what the light that you're showing on it. Yes, so there's more subtle piece. So
but I can't show you guys this here because I tried with spotlights and it just bleaches out completely because the light isn't balanced across the whole screen image. So unfortunately I can't make it more intense right now.
But however, that is quite intense now. As it's getting darker, the intensity of the light is becoming more intense. And when we show your artwork at the art fair, look at that, that's amazing. We use the individual lights, don't we? And when we've hung them in people's houses, we always make sure there's a directional light so people can choose to have. They can kind of play with the light and paint their own piece, which I find amazing. So yeah, that's the piece. Is it quite intuitive as you're kind of building it up? Do you kind of put things in and take things out?
Yes, I look at how the color balance across the piece. I look at how two colors interact with each other, and whether I want a sort of transition or a contrast. There's lots of way of working with it. The next piece I'm gonna do is gonna be a big version of this, and it's gonna have less. This is sort of almost like full spectrum color, but it's gonna be more two-tonal and more of a movement of color across it as well. So that's the next challenge, really.
And bigger?
Yes.
Bigger.
Yes.
So what size is that piece?
This is 40 by 40.
And people can buy these from Cube Gallery, and they can also buy them directly from you, is that right?
No, this piece, because it's sort of like still part of a series that's in progress, that hasn't passed on to Cube Gallery, but all my other work is available through Cube Gallery.
And is that the primary way people would buy from you, is through Cube Gallery?
Yes, but if I sometimes make smaller pieces, handheld pieces, things like that.
Yes.
I haven't got one here. They show work of this sort of size and larger.
Right, so if someone wanted a tiny piece...
if you wanted something small, they could come to me directly.
Come to you directly. And you were saying, you know, the kind of inspiration for this came through your architecture, and you mentioned your sister and other inspirational people in your life. Who is it? Is there other people there that have inspired you on this journey?
Well, I have to, a big thank you to all my class tutors and people who've guided me. Big thank you to my partner, Shelley, as well, who supports me with all the frame making and specialist things that
he's amazing.
I need help with. So I'm very lucky there.
Yeah.
Very lucky indeed. And
you showed me a piece the other day which was like a conical piece that was a beautiful conical piece by an artist that you said was very inspirational earlier on in your career.
Yes. One of my favorite artists and really inspirational for me is an artist called Lillian Lynn.
Yes.
She's an American artist, lives in London, and I'm so lucky to have one of her limited edition resin cones here.
Absolutely stunning.
And
it sits so well with your work.
Yeah, and what is amazing, because the light travels through this and throws shadows, and I've observed shadows from this interacting with my glass, and that's even more exciting then.
Yeah.
So that was a real special treat. I think that's the most expensive piece of art I've ever bought.
I'm quite coveting that though, and I'm like, I need to look her up. So Lillian Lynn, Liyyn, I think you said is how you spell it.
Liyyn, the surname, yeah.
Everyone have a look at that, because that is stunning, and as you say, how it interacts with your work as well. I mean, we've exhibited your work. Pure have exhibited your work for quite a few years, and I love how it sits alongside other people's work. It's so gentle, and you can put it in with a group of work really easily, or it can stand alone as a statement piece on its own. That's the most amazing thing about your work, is there's no I haven't found a context where it doesn't work yet, and I love it. So we've got some questions.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some questions. This will be intriguing. So, the first one is from Charlie, who is a glass artist, who says, Hildegard, you're an inspiration. I think we all say yes to that.
Thank you, Charlie.
Griselda, now how much of your creative time is spent on commissioned work, as when you were in the design practice, and how much on developing and making creative pieces without a planned destination?
I've not actually had that many commissions come through. I had a big commission a couple of years ago for a hospital in Harefield in Middlesex. And that was a big piece, 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. And I had, and I've had some small commissions recently, but I would say more of my work is developing my series of artwork that I've shared, and just exploring with the materials, because the way I work is very process-based. It's not like I have an idea in my head and I've got to kind of make it. It's like I might play around with something, observe the glass, observe some shadows, some chance moments, something else interacting with it, and then I say, okay, how can I work with that observation and take that forward? So it's very much process-based, not concept-based, what I do. I don't know if that answers the question, but so it still feels, and an endless journey of exploration and discovery. And
where did the paper come from? So you started using paper, because you were saying you started off with the plaster and then the bands of light, etc. Where did you find that idea of using paper?
I wanted to find a way of not having to bond the glass to other glass, because all my work, like this piece, these pieces here, are all UV bonded to float glass, lead-free float glass. And that's a very intense process in terms of cleaning it, and you have to be very exact, and it's quite and I thought it'd be quite nice to work with something where I don't have to do that. I have more freedom of moving things around. I mean, in a sense, the spine pieces are sort of less demanding in that respect, but they have other challenges. But
I can see that, because once you've stuck it down, haven't you? It's permanent. That's that. It's kind of,
and if you're
committed,
if you break a piece, that's it. Whereas these pieces, if you apply a great
we're frozen.
take the glass away, you can correct mistakes that way.
Okay.
And even with these flat-on pieces, you can do
just
that.
Just repeat that, because you just froze slightly there. I don't quite know why, but you froze slightly. So say that again.
Yeah, if you make a mistake or something breaks here, you can use a heat gun, like a paint stripper.
Right.
And the glue will dissolve eventually.
Oh.
So you can make repairs, whereas with something like this, you can't.
Okay. And is it quite fragile then?
It is. The glass, well, in the smaller pieces, the glass thickness is 1.1 millimeters.
Wow.
And although it's quite a hard glass, it can break, and especially if you put pressure on while you're cleaning. The larger work is I use 2 millimeter. When I scale up the pieces, I use 2 millimeter glass, but that's still, quite a thin material to work with.
Thank goodness you used your husband, Shelley, to frame your work, because could you imagine the fear of taking that to a framer? And if he breaks it, you're just going to be cross and not make him dinner. But
well, that hasn't actually happened. So touch wood, that's great.
Touch wood.
Yes, that's good.
Touch lots of words there, but he does a great job. I know at one point he did some perspex cases, didn't you? That so people could see all the way around. Whereas you're now doing these. The cases are wood again.
Yeah, the acrylic box frames, I ordered them in pre-made. That came from Jackson's Framing. And then the one that I did for the big hospital commission, I had to have that made by a specialist over in Middlesex.
And the piece you had made for the hospital, originally that was a round piece, wasn't it? Was it a round piece?
Yes, it was a round piece, and they persuaded me to have it unframed, which I was very reluctant to do. But then they found that maintenance was just too tricky, and they asked me to frame it in a square acrylic box. So yeah, that was quite a learning curve, both for them and for me. But
we all have to go on those journeys, don't we? Of you want to be flexible and adaptable, but when you're dealing with glass, stressful, very stressful.
The good thing about that commission was that they were happy to install a sort of 3-phased spotlighting. They had 3 tracks of spotlights up, so that the lighting could be programmed for the light to move from the left to the right, and have changing light effects on this big piece, which was a reception area. So I was very pleased that aspect
kind of mirrored how the sun would move around.
Yeah.
So that kind of answers the next question, which was from Fran, saying, are your current pieces to be displayed on a wall or to be picked up and moved around? Well, you display them on a wall, or these pieces,
this piece is effectively freestanding, as you can see. So the smaller pieces can be freestanding, can be moved around. I've made things even smaller than this as handheld pieces. I haven't got one of that size here. And the fun of that is that you can move them in a place where you've got the right light, or you can play with them. They can turn to be quite like a kaleidoscope. The bigger pieces really need to hang on the wall, but each piece I make has the ability to be mounted one way or the other, depending on whether the light comes from the top through a skylight or a ceiling spotlight, or whether it comes from a side window. So then you would hang the work depending on the direction of the light.
Wow.
So each piece has that, not this one here, but each of the other pieces. Where's the other one I have? Here. For instance, here you've got that or that, and the big pieces, they've got strap hangers on 2 sides, 2 pairs.
So you can play with the light. Do you often get asked to install the pieces for people? So when people buy?
No, I haven't actually, other than the commission at the hospital. But people do ask me, how do I best light it? And generally it's a sort of adjustable spotlight in the ceiling, which obviously would in some cases involves some retrofitting and putting new lights in. So, but you can light it with a table lamp, or what I favor are flexible spotlights. So IKEA do a great range, although there are others available.
Other brands also make them.
Yeah. You can adjust the effect, and so it can be very soft in the day, and then it can be very intense in an evening setting.
Yeah.
And also what I love is when the daylight, how it changes in a room, and you walk in and suddenly, oh wow, look at that reflection now. So in a sense, it's time-based work, which can surprise you and can be very pale on dull days, and really bring that shaft of light and even just highlight an aspect of the work. And I love that. I think it's important to be in touch with light and the rhythms of the light, and not just always have the constant artificial light on things, you know.
Yeah, to allow the natural light to work its magic.
Yeah, and to be aware of the rhythm of things, really. You know,
rhythm of the day and the seasons.
Yeah, and that, you know, things aren't necessarily available 24/7, but you've got to look for them and discover them. And you know, one thing I really like to think of my work is sort of making the invisible visible, you know, bringing some magic, unexpected magic, you know.
I think that's what we're trying to do with this ART360, make the artists who are invisible visible.
Yes.
And we're doing okay. So Vincent asks, would you say that your design background comes into your work?
Yes, it does, especially in the earlier pieces. But even now, it's, I guess it's, yeah, like this piece here. You know, it's very pattern. It's very pattern inspired, and it's quite constructive. My work, you know, construction based. I would say it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an influence. Well, I suppose everything that we do is an influence, isn't it? I can hear Shelley. Is that Shelley moving around over there?
Yes.
So Shelley's also an artist, as you alluded to earlier, as well as a framer. He works in photography, doesn't he, and screen printing and such like.
Yes. Yeah.
What's it like being in a household of a completely 100% art household? There's the both of you working as artists.
Well, I think we've put our son off the subject. We talk so much art that he just says, oh no, we're not going. If we're going on holiday, you have to promise me we're not going to a museum or an art exhibition.
Because you also hold open studios, don't you, as well at the house,
yes.
and invite other artists to show.
Yes, yeah. But it's inspiring, and we bounce off each other and ideas, and it's a sort of creative journey for both of us, which is just great.
Louise is saying in the side here, when she showed your work at Chalk Gallery, the sun touching the glass threw rainbows across the ceiling, which was magical. And I've seen that when we've exhibited it, as the especially in the afternoon light. The afternoon light is amazing on the glass, and you get the incredible light thrown a massive distance across the room. You get the rainbows, like a really long distance. You see the light travelling, which is just incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. This doesn't really do anything. Yeah, I don't want to show anything. Those are the elements of surprise, and that's where those magic moments when you realize, oh, look at that, what's happening right now with the light. And I love that. I guess I'm quite a romantic at heart, really.
Your work has a definite romanticism about it, and that beautiful, as I say, it's soft and gentle, but then it's an incredibly hard, you know, the glass is an incredibly hard medium, and so you're like a magician with that how you create these wonderful pieces that are so unexpected, that create this amazing light. So no, fabulous. So if people are interested in buying your work, as you said, Cube Gallery, or they can contact you directly. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, and thank you for sticking with it when we had the slight sound issue. I didn't intend to bring myself completely up there. There we go. Share the space with you. Yeah, the sound issue earlier. These, we're all on this journey, aren't we, together, of like working out how this digital world works, and we'll look back at this in 5 years' time and we'll be like, wow, we did that, and no one else was doing it. We did it, and yeah, really well done, Hildegard, because that when you find yourself up against something, we just have to, just bend like a tree and see. And you said your entire career has been those moments where someone said no to this and it's taken you down another. So I'll be intrigued to see where this all goes for all of us. But thank you for sharing all of that and sticking with it. Thank you to Caroline as well. I'm going to just bring Caroline back up. Hopefully she's not sitting there and decided to go and get into her pajamas or anything. No, she didn't. I can just imagine going, and we're bringing Caroline back, and she suddenly decided to put her onesie on.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. Mollie has taken a break. As you know, Mollie's not been very well, so I'm trying to make sure she doesn't overdo it. But thank you both so much. Caroline from Vancouver. And I hope that you haven't got long now in quarantine, have you, Caroline? Got another?
I've got 9.5 more days.
Oh, goodness. Of looking out of the window at the beautiful. And how long are you out there for?
A month.
A month. So, yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it, that quarantine? I know we were looking at whether we could, we have a house in France, and we were looking at how we could make that work, and yeah, I haven't got my head around it yet. So thank you so much for that, and I loved seeing all your work at the Discarded Tea Bags exhibition last weekend in Smallhithe as well. That was
that was fun.
That was good fun, wasn't it? We had the poet.
He was
incredible, Bill Lewis. I'm hoping he might do something for us at the end of ART360, and I did ask him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to. Only problem is that my camera and mic are both broken on my laptop." I was like, "Oh no, that could be a problem because we do need."
That would be a shame because he was really good.
I posted some up on the Pure Instagram of his poetry, him reading his poetry, and it's so contemporary. It's all about Twitter and Instagram and bears. He was saying one about bears, wasn't he, that everyone was laughing, saying, "Caroline, you'll be seeing the bears." So hopefully Bill is out investing in a new laptop with a camera and working mic, and then we'll be able to bring him to you at the end. So yeah, he was at the exhibition. And and how lovely is that the two of you who've exhibited together are seeing each other on the screen.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone who's making such lovely comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both so much. So tomorrow I will be here with Gemma Gowland, who's a ceramicist, so quite different. Photographer, glass artist, tomorrow we've got ceramics, so that'll be intriguing to see how that all works, and she's been on quite a journey as well. So yeah, thank you both so much. Have a lovely rest of the day, everyone. Thank you all for joining us and asking the most amazing questions. I'm very, very grateful for all the questions, because it means that I can listen more intently and enjoy the experience as well, because I know that there's other people asking questions, and it really does add something to the dynamic. So yeah, thank you for all adding in your energy, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you.